A lot of times in algebra, we have variables or letters that represent an unknown value or an unknown quantity. In this lesson, we're going to look at a few different properties of algebra using those variables or using those letters. So looking at these first two examples, you see we have a P right here and a Q right here. In these two examples, we actually do know what the value of each of those numbers are. We know that the value of P is 3 and the value of Q is 5. So if we're given variables but we know their value, we can replace each variable or replace each letter with the equivalent number and then simplify what remains using the order of operations. And I'm going to put a star right here. When we are substituting or replacing those values, we really want to use parentheses when we replace them. This is not always necessary and can sometimes make your problem look a little bit messy, but the more you do them, the more you will realize when you do need parentheses and when you don't. So better be safe than sorry, put them inside parentheses. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this problem, replacing our letters with their given values. So I know that P equals 3. Inside my parentheses, I know that Q equals 5 plus 6. Okay, from here, we're just going to simplify. We're going to do what's inside my parentheses first. 5 plus 6 is 11. We have a 3 on the outside. 3 times 11 is 33. Another example that has a few more letters here. We have x plus z times 3 minus z times x divided by 3. And we know that x equals 6. We know that z equals -2. So I'm going to highlight where we have an x. I'm going to highlight where we have a z. Okay, so let's replace those values. We have -6 plus, we've got our z, which is -2, times x, which is -6, times 3 minus -2. And in our other parentheses, we have -6 divided by 3. Okay, so let's take this piece by piece. We're going to start inside our parentheses or our grouping symbols. I know you see a lot of parentheses here. These ones are actually the only ones, well, in these, that are grouping values. Okay, so we're going to start inside here. We have 3 minus -2. Remember, when we see that minus and negative, we can change it to a plus. So I have -6 plus -2 times -6 times 3 plus 2 gives me 5. We can go ahead and do this division inside these grouping symbols as well. -6 divided by 3 is -2. Okay, so notice we really only have two operations going on. We have addition and we have a whole lot of multiplication right here. You can multiply all these numbers at once, just go left to right. So we have -6 plus, if I multiply -2 times -6 times 5 times -2, I should get -120. So if we add those, -6 plus -120 is -126. So our order of operations don't change. We've just got to replace the unknown value with the given value. Okay, now let's talk about some simplifying. This is where we do have some variables, but we do not know the value of them. Many times in algebra, we're not going to know the value of our variables. So a few ways that we can simplify them. One of them is combining like terms. So like terms are terms, each of these is a term, that have the exact same letter and exact same exponent. If they are like terms, we can combine them, which means we add or subtract them. So looking at example 32, 5x minus 2y minus 8x plus 7y. Well, this and this are like terms, and notice here, the sign in front of the number stays with that number. This and this are going to be like terms. So if we combine them, 5x minus 8x gives me -3x. -2y plus 7y gives me a positive 5y. So this is all we can do. We don't know the value of x and y, so we can't substitute values, but we can simplify it a little bit by combining like terms. All right, the next one, notice we've got a lot of x's here. Some of them have exponents, some of them do not. We cannot combine an x squared with an x. They have to have the same letter and the same power. We can combine these two right here. We can combine negative 3x and positive 4x. We can combine positive 7 and negative 3. So if we do that, 8x squared minus 2x squared is 6x squared. Negative 3x plus 4x is positive 1x. 7 minus 3, positive 4. And notice right here, you could write plus 1x, or you could write just plus x. Those are equivalent values. Okay, one other way that we're going to talk about simplifying variables or simplifying expressions is when we see something outside parentheses being multiplied to those parentheses. And we call that distribution or distributing. The name of the property that it describes is the distributive property. So if we see parentheses, we want to get rid of those parentheses by distributing. And the way we do that is we multiply what's on the outside by each term that's on the inside. For example, here, a times b is ab, a times c is ac. So looking at these examples when we're multiplying, 4 times 2x gives me 8x. 4 times negative 7, don't lose your symbol, is negative 28. On example 35, we're distributing a negative 7. Negative 7 times 5x is negative 35x. Negative 7 times negative 6, positive 42. We stop there because we can't combine any like terms. There are no like terms. Okay, look at example 36. There's just a negative on the outside. So if you only see a negative on the outside, it's understood that there's a 1 with that. So we have negative 1 times each one of these. We get negative 4x. Negative 1 times negative 5y is positive 5y. Negative 1 times 6, negative 6. We stop there because we have no like terms. We've got an x, a y, and just a number, just a constant. Okay, looking at 37, let's look at what we're distributing here. We are not distributing that 5. We're just going to bring that 5 down. We're going to distribute this 3 to everything inside parentheses. 3 times 2x, 6x. 3 times negative 4, negative 12. Okay, in this case, we are not finished. Notice here we do have some like terms we can combine. So I'm going to put this 6x out front. 5 minus 12 gives me negative 7. So my simplified answer is 6x minus 7. So after you distribute, check and see if there are any like terms. Okay, example 38. Same process. Notice here that this 2 that we're distributing is negative. That negative stays with that 2. I am not distributing that 3x, so we're just going to bring it down. Negative 2 times 4x is negative 8x. Negative 2 times negative 5 gives me a positive 10. We can combine our x's. 3x minus 8x is negative 5x. Nothing to combine with the 10, so we just bring it down. In our last one here, notice we have 2 sets of parentheses, so we're going to distribute 2 times here, 2 times here. 2 times 5x is 10x. 2 times negative 8, negative 16. Negative 6 times 4x is negative 24x. Negative 6 times 3, negative 18. All right, let's look for like terms. We can put our x's with our x's. 10x minus 24x is negative 14x. We can put our numbers with our numbers. Negative 16 minus 18 more is going to give me negative 34. Combined all of our like terms, there's nothing else we can do, so we stop right there. So those are a few ways that we can simplify algebraic expressions.